What's up, YouTube? In this video, I'm going to show you how I lowered the height of my girlfriend's 2019 Genuine G400c. I'm going to show you how I did it, why I did it, the good things, and some of the downsides to after I lowered it. So stay tuned. Alright, so here she is, a brand new 2019 Genuine G400c. We love the bike so far. We've had it for a couple months. We just broke in the engine. We just went on a good ride today, actually. And it's a great bike. We love it. But when we first got the bike, it was a little bit too tall. Actually, it was a lot too tall for my girlfriend, who is 4'9". So, I had to do a few things to lower it. And one of the first things I did, of course, was I lowered the back end, I lowered the front end, and then I lowered the seat. So what I did was, obviously, the first thing was I went out and bought some Burley brand shocks, put those on. What we did on the front end is we slipped the shocks through the triple tree. We slipped them through about 2 inches on the front, and that was, well, we slipped it through 2 inches to try and level the bike. As you can see, with the back end lowered as far as it'll go, the front end was just a little high, so we brought it down. What I thought might be a problem was that the pipes might start hitting the fender, so I basically lowered them down 2 inches. That's what that is. On both sides, it's we slipped them 2 inches through. It seems to be good. I mean, I don't know if it's perfectly level, but it certainly lowered the entire bike. Next thing we did, as I said, we lowered the seat. So the seat originally was about 4, maybe 5 inches tall. We took it to a leather person here in Sac who works on seats, and she brought it down to about 2 inches tall. She didn't change the leather, she didn't change the foam, she just carved it out. She did a great job, I thought. It wasn't that expensive either. That was only about maybe 120 bucks. She still kept the Genuine emblem on there, which we were real happy about. So that was definitely the next thing we did. That made a big difference, but she still couldn't quite go, flat-footed on both feet. So the next thing I did was I had to think of a way to lower the back end. Now, as you guys probably know, when you first get this bike, the fender is like 5 inches, or 5 to 6 inches above the wheel. This here, it's literally an inch away. That's how low I had to go for my girlfriend to be able to put her feet comfortably on the ground when she stops at a red light. So the slammer shocks were great. They certainly lowered the bike, and because of the spring rate, they don't bottom out, they don't bounce so much on a pothole that the fender hits the wheel. But it was still not quite low enough. So what I ended up doing was I bought these Harley Sportster lowering links. I got these on Amazon. These were not made for Genuine. I don't think Genuine even makes a part as far as a lowering link. But these were like 20 bucks on Amazon. They shipped in a couple days. These are the 1 to 3 inch lowering links. If you put the bolt in the first hole there, that's 1 inch. If you put it in the next hole over, that's 2, and if you put it in the back hole, that's 3 inches. So I ended up doing that, putting it on the third hole back, and it really brought the fender down almost to the wheel. But again, with the slammer shock in there, it still doesn't bottom out with a full-grown person on there. So that was great. So this is what the lowering link looks like. this is the style. They have a bunch of different styles as far as Harley lowering links. I actually ended up buying another lowering link just to see if it would work. It didn't work as well, so I liked this one. I did have to do some modification to these. If you can see on this side, you've got the little tab. It's the full size. You didn't have to alter that. On the right hand or on the left hand side, I actually had to file down the tab a little bit. If you can kind of see, I had to file down the tab so that it wouldn't hit the bolts here on the back end. That was one alteration I had to do on that one. And then on this side, what I ended up having to do is carve out. See, the shock itself kind of was touching the lowering link, so what I did was I took a grinder and just carved out the part of the lowering link, and then I put some spray paint on there just so it wouldn't rust over. I did have to alter those, but it really wasn't that difficult. Anybody with a grinder could do both of those things. It wasn't difficult at all. The next thing I did as far as lowering the G400c is I had to put on a different type of kickstand. The original kickstand that comes on this bike is attached to the foot peg here, and you can kind of see I had to cut it off. At a certain point I knew the kickstand was going to have to be changed because the bike sat so low that the bike almost stood straight up when you put the kickstand down. So I got another kickstand to go on the original kickstand spot, but the problem with that was this whole apparatus is really low to the ground after I've done all my alteration, all my changes. So it would actually hit. It would hit the ground. So I cut it off, and I disconnected the. This is an open wire. I disconnected the kickstand sensor, so the sensor that tells the bike whether the kickstand is up or down. And then what I did was I went on, I think eBay. I can't remember if it was eBay or Amazon. I'm pretty sure it was eBay. And I bought this. This is a Triumph clip-on frame kickstand, and it fits perfectly on the frame. I didn't have to change anything. I didn't have to weld anything. It goes right on. What it does is you can shift it, one way or the other, and for whatever lean angle you want. As you can see, when the bike is straight up and down, it's really far out. But when you tilt the bike over and set it down on the curb, it's the right height. This thing fit perfectly on the frame. The problem was that you have these little catalytic converters on the pipes, and so it wasn't going to fit any farther back. It also wasn't going to fit any farther up because the frame, as you can see, the frame rail goes up. So it is in the perfect spot, and it's at the perfect angle. I really got lucky on that. I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. Because the original, like I say, the original kickstand spot was just too low to the ground, and it just kept hitting. But I just cut the wire, disconnected it, ground off the old spot, put the new one, and it works great, no problems. The next thing I had to do as far as modifications to the bike from its stock form is I had to change the chain guard here. The chain guard starts up at the front. It's bolted in on a little tab that comes off the frame. And the problem I had was there was a frame tab back here that I had to grind off to put the lowering link. And I thought, crap, what am I going to do? Because I want to keep the chain guard, but I wasn't sure how I was going to do that. I'm really not too handy at welding, so I didn't want to weld anything on. But what happened was there's holes here in this specific lowering link, so I literally, and they just happen to fit right where the hole is for the chain guard. So I literally just threw a nut through there, threw a bolt and a nut through there, bolted it down, and it fits perfectly. It's almost exactly in the same location that it was when before I put the lowering link on there. So there you have it, guys. That's how I lowered the G400c to be just about as low as it possibly could go. Before I end the video, I want to kind of go over some of the things that were a little difficult, some of the sort of unanticipated consequences of what I did. The first thing was the rear fender, like I say, the rear fender is really close to that tire. And believe it or not, this is the closest part to the actual back wheel. So if it was going to bottom out, the first thing that would touch is that fender. What I actually ended up doing was taking the fender and sort of putting new, if you can see, I put some different bolts in there, and I sort of swung it back and made it touch the rear frame here. It had the frame had a tab that went down, and the fender bolted to that, but there was a little bit of a gap. So what I did was I sort of pounded in the tab, made it just basically the fender touch the frame, and that gave me a little bit more room to fit, to fit the whole thing in there, and that works great. So you might have to do a little alteration on that, depending on how low you want to go. I mean, if this is literally just about as low as you can get this thing. If you're not going that low, you don't have to worry about that. The other thing that was difficult is of course, the tailpipes. So this is the only spot that I still really need to work on as far as altering this bike. When you get the bike at the stock height, those tailpipes actually aim up a little bit, so they're sort of floating and flying up at you, and those look cool. When we lowered it like this, the problem is now they're flat, or they even kind of aim down towards the ground. These things, they don't look that low right now, but when she's going around a corner or when she's working on a twisty, these pipes damn near touch almost every time. So what I'm gonna do is I'm probably gonna work on, working at the joint right here and getting the pipes aimed up a little more, so they're not quite just so flat to the ground. That's just one of the little things that sort of you got to think about when you're going to do this project is, make sure those pipes aren't too low. Make sure you're not going to scrape them as you're going around corners. The other real downside to, lowering the bike as much as I've done, these shocks here, they work real great. They're like I say, they're Burley brand. They bounce in and they don't bottom out too much. But the downside is they really don't have a lot of bounce to them. When you're going down a bumpy road, it's a pretty stiff ride. I've ridden this thing quite a few times. That back seat is pretty much stiff as a board, especially since we took out so much of the foam. So it can get pretty wearing on your body with that rear shock like that. What I'm going to do next, honestly, I'm going to see if I can't get a little taller of a shock and get one that has a little bit more bounce to it. And hopefully, when I put those on, that'll give her a little more comfortable of a ride. Like I say, they serve their purpose. They don't bottom out, but they're pretty stiff. So that's one thing to think about with those shocks there. All right, well there you have it, guys. There's the G400c. Like I said, we lowered it down. It fits a very short rider, and if you're a short rider, it could fit you too. So thanks for watching, and good luck on your travels.